Hi, I'm Matt with Mirrorbox Games, and I'm here to teach you how to play and set up Chaosmos. So first of all, when you open the box, you'll see a lot of different components. For the demo of Chaosmos, you're only going to need a certain number of them. You're going to be playing with these 4 aliens, the green, pink, yellow, and purple aliens. So you'll need their character sheets along with these shields of those colors. You won't need the other 6 aliens. So you can actually set aside the shields and the character sheets for those aliens. You won't need them for the game. Next, you'll have the board. The board for Chaosmos is actually in a bunch of different modular pieces. So it's a bunch of hexes that you'll use to arrange in a board shape. You won't need the Singularity Gate, the Barren Planet, or Ob, or Vorche. You can actually take these 4 hexes and put them back in the box. You won't be using them for this demo. Finally, the cards. There's a deck of cards for Chaosmos. You'll want to look at the cards and see in the bottom right corner which cards have an icon on them. There are 8 cards with a cube icon, 3 cards with a triangle icon on them, and 3 cards with this little cylinder icon on it. You won't need any of these cards for the demo, so take out all cards with an icon you see when you search through the equipment deck. Take out Ob and Vorche envelopes since you're not going to be playing with those planets. You'll also have these diamond tiles, which are wormhole tiles. You'll have a set of A tiles and a set of B tiles. You only need the A's, so you can set aside the B's. And finally, you'll have a number of landing flag markers that are triangles in different alien colors. You won't need these landing flag markers for the game. So the only time you'll actually use these extra components is if you're playing a demo with all experienced Chaosmos players. Anytime there's at least 1 new player, you should make sure to use the new player roles. All right, so let's actually set up a game of Chaosmos and learn how to play. So the 8 hexes you're left with are gonna actually be set up in a circle shape around the chaos clock, which goes in the center of the board. You're going to put Pendra on top, followed by Click Talk, Jagladak, Kafav, Dismirk, Cyclocus, Guriwan, and Ulu. If you need a reference for the layout of these, you can find them in the rulebook. You're going to put 2 asteroid field tiles here, which block off movement between these. So this is how you set up the board for Chaosmos. The last part you need is the wormhole tiles, one which connects to Jagladak, and one which connects to Guriwan, and that's it. So this is how the board will look when people walk up to the demo table, and I'm going to show you how I would do a demo for Chaosmos. So Chaosmos is a hidden information strategy game where the universe is collapsing and you play as an alien on the hunt for the ovoid, the seed of the new universe. Every time a player takes a turn in Chaosmos, the chaos clock in the center of the board will click down by 1. When it reaches 0, the old universe collapses and whoever has the ovoid card in their hand becomes the master of the new universe. On your turn, you'll have 3 actions, which you spend however you choose. You can use those actions to move about, explore planets, battle other players, searching for the ovoid, and then figuring out a strategy to get it into your hand at the exact moment that the chaos clock hits 0. There's special cards, like vaults and traps, which you can use to thwart your opponents when you land on a planet. The unique mechanic with Chaosmos is that when you land on one of the planets, you actually pick up an envelope corresponding to that planet, which has cards hidden inside it. You get to open up the envelope, look at all the cards inside, and choose any of them that you want to take with you, leaving other ones behind. You can only hold 7 cards in your hand at one time, so every time you land on a new planet, you'll have to figure out your strategy and decide which cards you want to take with you and which ones to leave behind. You can activate 2 special cards, vaults and traps, on planets by flipping them face up inside of the envelope, and it protects it from other players. So if I have the ovoid, I can leave it inside Ulu, and I can flip one of these 2 cards, let's say a trap, face up. Now when I leave Ulu behind, and somebody else comes to try to take what I left there, they open it up and it's a trap. The trap activates, they get teleported back home, and they lose the rest of their turn. And now they have to guess, what did I leave inside of you? Is it the ovoid? Is it something else? Was it just a bluff? And that's where the mind games come in. So that's what a trap does. A vault is another flip card you can use. When you leave a vault on a planet, and I come to see what you've left behind, I open it up, I get to see, oh, there's a vault inside. I can actually look behind the vault, so I can see, in this case, that there's the ovoid there, but I can't take that card unless I find a magnetic key. So out there somewhere on these planets, there are 2 keys, each of which would let me unlock the vault and access what's inside. So on your turn, you're going to have 3 actions, and you use them however you choose. There's different ways to use your actions, the first being movement. When you move, you spend 1 action to move 1 space on the board. Each planet is 2 spaces away from each other planet. So it would be 1 space, 2 spaces to go from Pendra to Click-Tock. There are these asteroid fields on the board which actually block movement, so I can't move between Click-Tock and Kafov. But there are also wormholes next to Jagladak and Guriwan, which I can move between. So it's 1 space to move onto a wormhole, which sucks you to the other side, and then another space to move on to the other planet. So it's always 2 spaces between planets, and you can also move across the Chaos Clock. It's always 2 spaces, so if I'm on Dismerk, I can move across the clock to Pendra, but you can only go straight across the clock. You can't change directions, for instance, and go from Pendra to Kafov. So that's movement. The second way you can spend an action is to take control of a planet. So if I'm on Click-Tock, I can spend my action to take control of Click-Tock. I open up the envelope, I take out any cards that are inside, I can look at those cards, pick ones to keep with me, put other ones behind, I can activate vaults or traps if I have those special cards, and when I have control of the envelope, I can actually keep switching out cards between my hand and the planet until I leave the planet. Once you leave the planet, you have to put the envelope back into the box. So that's the second way to spend an action. The third way to spend an action is attacking another player. So if you move onto the same space as another player, you can spend an action to attack them. When you attack another player, you each roll 2 combat dice, which forms your initial combat score. This is a 6, that would be a 7. If you roll a mirror icon, like this, that actually copies the other number, so this would be 8. And in the rare occasion that you roll 2 mirrors, that makes infinity, and you automatically win the combat. So let's assume, though, that I rolled a 6, and you rolled an 8. Now what happens is we play combat cards to add to our scores. So we'll each have weapons in our hands, which we can use to add to our scores. For instance, a poison dart, which adds +1 to my side. Whoever has the lower score will play combat cards first, and they play cards from their hand until their score is at least as high as the other players. And you play cards back and forth like this, each trying to one-up each other's scores until one player has the higher score and both people pass. Once everyone passes, whoever has the higher score is the winner, and they get 2 choices. They can either take spoils, or they can banish the opponent. If you take spoils, you get to look at the other player's hand, choose any 1 card, and take it. If you choose banishment, you get to pick any planet on the board, and teleport that player to that planet and end their turn. So that's combat, which is the 3rd type of action you can do. The 4th type of action is hyperspacing. Each character in the game is going to have 3 hyper tokens at the beginning of the game, which they can use to teleport anywhere on the board with an action. When you use up a hyper token, you can go to any space, stars or planets or wormholes, but that teleport stone, that hyper token is gone, and you can't use it again. You only get 3 hyper tokens for the whole game, so you have to use them wisely. The other kind of action you can do is playing a card that costs an action. So some cards have a little action symbol on the top left corner in blue, and that means it costs 1 action to play that card. You play the card, and if it's yellow, you'll discard it. So yellow cards have this vortex symbol on them, which means they go to the void after you play them, and they get discarded where they're not used again. Other cards in this game, if they don't have a discard icon, they actually go back to your hand. So for instance, if I played a poison dart in combat, I actually get that card back at the end of the combat, so I can play the same weapon over and over again. But it can actually be dangerous to play the same weapons over and over, because most weapons actually have defenses against them. So if I play, for instance, the Subsonic Shock, which is a strong weapon, it adds +2, and you see me playing that card over and over in combat, you can actually go out and look for the Subsonic Dephaser, which counters my Subsonic Shock and reflects the damage back at me. So in Chaosmos, it's important to pay attention to which cards people are playing, because every card has a counter, and switching up your strategy is actually a really good idea, because if you play the same thing over and over again, other people will be able to adapt to you and outsmart you. So the last type of thing you can do on your turn is trading with the Cosmic Pool. So the Cosmic Pool is actually a set of 6 face-up cards that you can trade for while you're on your home planet. So when you're at your home planet, which is the same planet as your alien's color, as a free action, you can trade one of the cards in your hand with one of the cards in the Cosmic Pool. For instance, I could trade this Subsonic Shock to get the Electrodynamic Inductor. You can do that once per turn and only while you're on your home planet. And that doesn't use up an action. So those are the different ways to spend actions on your turn. While you're using your actions, you're basically trying to figure out where the ovoid is and then create a plan to get it into your hand at the exact right moment when the game ends. There's actually one special card called the Temporal Displacer, which can actually speed up time. So if there's 8 turns or less in the game, then the Temporal Displacer can move it up by 8 turns and end the game immediately. Meaning if you can find the ovoid card and the Temporal Displacer at the same time and there's 8 turns or fewer, you can win the game immediately. So the other thing that you'll have to worry about in Chaosmos is alien ecologies and toxic planets. So every player plays as an alien with a unique ability. For instance, this is Vroon, whose power is he can move 2 spaces for 1 action on his turn. But he's also got a toxic planet. So every alien has one planet that they can't go to without a special environment card. So for Vroon, he's unable to go to Kafav unless he has the Respiration Worm. And you'll notice that Kafav actually has a green ring around it, which is the same color as Vroon, noting that that's his toxic planet. When Vroon is on Kafav, he can't attack other players who are there, and he can't take control of the envelope there unless he reveals the Respiration Worm, which is his environment card, or the Polymorpher, which is an environment card that works for anybody.
Okay, so what I would want to know if I was a new player is, what do I do for my first turn? If I don't have the ovoid, what do I do? And if I do have the ovoid, what do I do?
Right, so for new players, usually at the beginning of the game, you don't have a lot of information because you've only seen your home planet in your hand. So a good thing to do is to go out and explore new planets. So at the beginning of the game, there will be these 4 planets, Ulu, Cyclocus, Kafav, and Clicktalk, which are totally unexplored. So you want to go out and try to figure out what's on those planets and maybe find the ovoid or maybe figure out a strategy that will help you find the ovoid. Eventually, if you search all these planets and you don't find the ovoid, it might be in somebody's hand or they might have hidden it underneath a trap or a vault. So you can use special cards like Scrying Prisms, which will let you look into people's hands. You could attack other players and try to beat them in combat to see what they're holding. There's lots of different cards and abilities that you'll use that will help you kind of develop a strategy for outsmarting your opponents in the game. So that's Chaosmos. The game takes about 60 to 90 minutes to play if you do a full 36-turn game, but for us, we usually do demos, which are 20 turns, and it takes about 20 to 25 minutes. So you want to focus on keeping people moving throughout their turns, and one way to do that is when somebody finishes their turn landing on a planet and taking an envelope, you can let them know that they can keep switching out their cards and deciding what they want to take while another player goes, and that will usually keep the game moving quickly. If you ever have any questions about different cards or anything, you can email us at mirrorboxgames@gmail.com. And if somebody else asks you a question that you're not sure about, you can always refer them to the rulebook where we actually have some clarifications about different cards and alien powers as well. So that's it.
That's it.